And we're back to learning CSS. Let me show you how you can add shadows to all elements on your website. We'll create a paragraph for this. I'll add some simple text, and we will use classes to add the text shadow. So I'll create a class text shadow. Let me refresh that, and I will leave the text a little bit small, so I want to make it bigger. But let me create a specific class for that. What could we call it? Let's just call it big. So we'll add a second class here to our paragraph. And I use the font minus size property. We try 20. That's still too small. I'll make that 30. And we can work with that. To add the text shadow, we will now go to our text shadow class. And here we have the text minus shadow property. And you need multiple values. When you only add one, nothing is going to be visible. You need at least 2 to determine X and Y position. We make that 2 pixels each. And now if I refresh it, we have the same text basically doubled. First value is the X position, so the higher you go, the more it moves to the right. And the second value is the Y position. And the Y position, the higher you go, the more it moves down. So top position would be 0. And if you want to go up, you must use negative values. 2020 would give us this. If I make that, for example, let's say 5 pixels and minus 20, it will move slightly to the right and then up. So the 0 pixel position is always where the element is, in our case the text. We make that 5 and 5. We can add a color here. This will recolor the text in the background. And if you want to add this typical shadow effect, you need a third value, and this is the blur. So if I make this 2 pixels, the green text will get blurred out a little bit. Let me go higher to 4. And now you can see that clearly. This obviously works for all colors, and the default is black. And this is basically how you can create these shadows. And the principle is the same for all elements. But there's one more thing to add. If we now create let's say a div container, and I give that a class of example to determine with height and background color. Now that we've got that and we want to add a shadow to it, we could now think about using the text shadow class that we've already created. But there's an issue. So if we just add this, it's not going to be visible on our div container because the text shadow property is only for text. So you can't add that to elements like a div container. In this case, we need what is called a box shadow. So I'll determine a new class, box shadow. I select it in the CSS. And this uses the box minus shadow property. And here we'll use the same values. So the first two values are for X and Y position. And now you can already see it. Once again, first value is for position horizontally, second for vertically. Default color is black, but we could give that a different color. And a third value is for the blur. So that's the only difference. If you have text, you want to use the text minus shadow property, and if you have an element like a div container, use the box minus shadow property. One more thing that I want to add is usually you use box shadows when you have a button, an element that people can hover over and then see something that's clickable, for example. To do that, or to create this effect, we simply add the hover state here to our box shadow class, and then this class will only add the box minus shadow property to the div container when we hover over it. And these are the basics of adding shadows in CSS. I hope this video was helpful, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.